Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune, and this video is about Carrot. Before that though, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and follow me at Twitch at twitch.tv/Wild Neptune. So, Carrot. She is a pretty hot topic right now. I'll just end the video right now. But really, she has wreaked havoc in the PvP realm since her buffs. If you're wondering what those buffs were, I do have them loaded. Well, I did have them loaded up here. Hold on a second. Here they are. Not gonna go over them, but I just want to show this. All this green stuff here is basically positives, right? For Carrot. So she got a lot of pretty significant alterations to her specialty change that in turn made her a very good hero. And the questions I'm going to answer in this video is, do I think she's too strong? Why do certain groups of people I think have one opinion or the other about Carrot? And do we have prior examples of this happening? And what can be done, or even should be done, if anything, about Carrot, right? So, in terms of her strength, she has a very loaded kit as a specialty change hero. She has extra turn on the S3. She has a built-in barrier with a cleanse on the S2. Basically, like built-in Chrism Seed. She has a powerful S1 combination with the S3 that always detonates. Can be built pretty tanky for the amount of damage she pushes out. A very strong unit that doesn't really have that many viable counters. At the same time though, there are other specially changed units that have pretty loaded kits too. Look no farther than Falconer Clary. Now, people will argue too that Falconer Clary also might be a little bit too good. A-Raz is another one that has a pretty loaded kit. Now, people don't say that A-Raz is too good, but I don't think people are going to disagree when they say that all three of these heroes' kits are pretty loaded. The difference, I think, in the perception is that, one, Falconer Clary has already been nerfed. It's been a long time since the nerf, but she was nerfed. And just the type of heroes they are. Carrot is a DPS hero, so the impact that she has is very immediate a lot of the times. Where a hero like Falconer Clary, you don't always see, or you can't always as easily quantify her impact on a match. With Carrot, it's, oh my god, she Soul Burn S3 blew up one of my units, and then my units killed themselves by hitting her, right? Like, that's what it is with Carrot. With Falconer Clary, it's more like, oh, she S3'd, and I kind of healed a little bit, and then because she used her S1 and got the CR boost and healed with the S2 a little bit, I wasn't able to kill this one unit on, like, the third turn, and because of that, my game plan fell apart. It's like, it's stuff like that where I think makes it so that in certain metas, like DPS heroes just seem very oppressive. And in other metas, like in a tank meta, things like Ruel and like LRK, stuff like that felt very oppressive. Falcon and Cleary too. Falcon and Cleary, back in the tank meta, was a very common pre-ban, and I've heard in a lot of cases players thinking that she was the best hero in the current PvP landscape, and some people wanted to be nerfed again. Now, these days, people aren't really picking her that much. She's still decent, but definitely not a top tier hero anymore. And I kind of want to point out this little facet where, as much as I do think Smilegate should nerf heroes again, right? And I might make a separate video about this. I don't think nerfing Carrot should be the first one they do. A lot of heroes that since, like, I'd say post buff, pre-nerf, like since Basket Arbiter Vildred has been a thing. Most heroes that we've had perceived as being too strong and had to be nerfed, something happened. Like a new unit came out, a unit got buffed, the meta shifted somehow, that made that unit not as powerful as before. Like Bazaar. Suddenly, because of the aggression in the meta, is still a good hero, but doesn't have the same impact as it did in previous metas. Falcon and Clear we just talked about. A hero, again, like Let's Ride a Crow. A hero that was very strong for a long time. Busted, even. And right now, some people say he's a bad hero even, which is like amazing to say. I don't think he's bad, right? But maybe just not as used as before, right? Even Fallen CC, I still think she's one of the best defensive knights, if not the best defensive knight in the game. But there are other options now, and she's not always the safest knight to pick in the game. Arbiter Vildred, like I said, he's still very good, right? He's always going to be good. But most players will say he's manageable now. I don't think any unit has their time on top forever. All these units at one point, I think, had an argument for being the best unit overall, at least in PvP. And one by one, they have fallen without the need for nerfs. Again, this is not saying that we should not have nerfs ever, because I do think we should. But Carrot, like a 3-star hero that opens up the door for PvP for like the every player, feels it just doesn't feel good for I think for the general player base if that happens. And that leads me on to the next part, is why do certain groups of people think about Carrot the way they do? I'm gonna generalize a bit here. So just because you might fall into like one group of people doesn't necessarily mean that you think the way that I'm gonna do the groupings, right? But from observation and seeing like people comment and talk about it, and just who talks about it, there seems to be two groups of people. The upper echelon PvP players, like RTA, so people who are going to push with like Emperor into Legend, and and like people like who have a frame like this, right, are gonna talk about, and then like the other players, like the more casual players. Um, the first thing I think people point think about is the whales don't like Carrot because everybody has her, and it kind of takes away an advantage from them. Um, I think this is kind of a flimsy argument. I don't see as much merit to this one. What I think it is, and it has to do with kind of like the competitive psychology of the top players, especially the ones who want to push it into an esport type type deal. I also think it had to do with like the background of where the players come from. I personally come from a card game background, so my tolerance to stuff like power spikes RNG is a bit higher than I think players that are coming from things like League or like fighting games, right? Um, from listening to players comment about the E7WC fights and just general PvP in general, um, a lot of top players tend to like to be in control of the fights. And what I mean by this is they kind of want methodical um, decision making that leads to somebody winning or losing a fight, right? They don't like it when units can be strong enough where it seems like they're winning in like 2 turns, right? Which, to be fair, sometimes Carrot can do that, right? Um, but it's that level of control that they want to have with fights like DN Crow, Soul Weaver, like Knights running through like S3s, true damage, like Vodka Precision's counters that last several rounds. Um, those types of battles, I think to the player, right, feels like my choices meant something, and therefore I deserve to win or lose based on the choices I made, and just don't have as many decision-making trees with Carrot, S3 detonate, right? And I think that's where the difference is, because other players, they want to have they want to have fun, right? They want to do things like see the big explosions and stuff like that too. Also, from a viewer standpoint, people like most people didn't hated watching the slower tank fights in the WC. If I had to guess, right? Like, at least from the people I talked to, they did not like the DN, like Blue Crow, whatever fights there were, like single DPS things that were going around. Especially because things like Landy and Spectre were such common pre-bans. Because those were just the strategies they were working for. The top players not only drafted, and I also kind of fit in this category too, although I think my drafts are more unorthodox than most of the players, in the tournament, where they stuck with safe things that they felt they had control over, right? And where they could just control the pace of the game. And again, Carrot, she just speeds up the pace of the game to a point where it's harder for those top players that want the control to gain it, right? The final thing is that, do I think she's good for the game? Or Or do I think she's too strong? In a vacuum, maybe, right? It's hard to say, like, pound for pound, if she is or not. I do think there have been other heroes in the game, like aforementioned, like Let's Ride a Crow, Basket Arby, stuff like that, that have been stronger than Carrot in a vacuum during their time. And again, their time has gone and it has passed, right? They're still very good heroes, but I don't think people are clamoring that they're the best heroes anymore. That said, it could be argued that maybe they were good for a little bit too long, and that Smilegate should maybe accelerate the rate at which they push out something that can deal with Carrot more readily than just, say, Obsidian and Blue Kisei, right? Like, maybe that's something. Because another thing, too, is just the ease of use of Carrot also. Her gear requirement is not that high, which is both good and bad. It's good because it means that everybody can use her, and that players feel like they have a chance if they have her, even if they're fighting somebody a couple hundred ranks above them. But the downside is that she becomes so ubiquitous with the meta that it can feel a little bit stale sometimes, just seeing her face all the time. I think, honestly, if he had more units kind of like Carrot, right? Maybe not as insane as she is, but like a couple more that made it felt like a rock, paper, scissors among strong, powerful, like, units that can either speed up or even slow down the fights in certain ways that have a similar impact. People will feel less bad about just not having Carrot in the drafts. So maybe, like, not really power creep. Again, I don't think Carrot is even the strongest hero right now. But just something else to level up the playing field might be an option. Again, I know some players do want nerfs. I think nerfs are something that should happen, but I also think the optics of nerfing a free hero is kind of bad, right? That's my opinion on the matter of Carrot. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my little conversation about the state of Carrot. I do think her time will eventually pass. Something's gonna happen that makes her not as good, or at least not as readily being able to be picked as she is right now. I'm Wild Neptune. It's been a good one. Nep out.